Might notice something a little different. Look at the leaves on the trees. Look at the clouds. Yeah, that's right. I got shaders, baby. Anyways, the shaders are not what we're talking about today. If you've clicked on this video, you already know what we're talking about. But we are talking about my awkward crush story today. Quickly, before I get into this video, I just wanted to thank you guys properly for 160 subscribers. It is crazy that I'm able to do this for you guys. Anyways, that's enough of talking about subscribing and talking about the shaders and everything. So this all started this year, actually. Now that I think about it, it all started this year. This is actually kind of creepy. It's like, oh, look at that. Oh, but it all started this year. And it all started because of art class. So basically, I was in choir. I was kind of forced to be in choir because of my friends. Because all of my friends who were girls, like Vanessa and I'm just gonna call her Ob. So Vanessa and Ob, they both, look at that, there's smoke coming out of the chimney. But Ob and me and Vanessa all wanted to be in choir. Eventually, Ob switched to art. But anyways, so Vanessa wanting to be in choir, I was like, okay, I guess I'll be in choir too, even though I kind of don't like singing very much. To the hall. And since our art class is right next to our music/choir class place, we get to see the art students pretty much all the time. I just decided that I didn't want to sing anymore because I'm more of an artist than I am of a singer. I've never really wanted to sing or be a singer, but I did want to be an artist growing up. So I decided to join art class. And while I'm in art class, I get one good day of being in art class alone with basically nobody. But while I'm in that class, I just joined, and since Ob was in that class, that's so cool. Since Ob was in that class, Ob was talking to me, and Ob's like, hey, I didn't know you joined this classroom, and I was like, yeah. And I ended up getting sat next to her. It was like my assigned seat for the year. But there was a boy sitting in front of us. And this boy, he looked pretty nice. Well, to me, he looked aesthetically pleasing. He had curly-ish blonde hair. Well, not curly-ish, it was very curly. It was curly blonde hair, and he had grayish, bluish, brownish eyes. It's weird to describe. It's like a gray color. But I really liked it. I liked everything. Oh, look at how cool this is. But I sat there, and he turned around, he talked to me, and he's like, hey, do I know you? Is your name Paige? And I was like, yes, which if you don't know, I didn't name reveal. But he was like, is your name Paige/Jimpix? And I was like, yes. And he's like, oh, well, I'm your boyfriend's cousin or something, your ex-boyfriend's cousin, because he was my ex at the time. I was like, oh, that's great. And he's like, yeah, your ex told me a lot about you, but I don't want to believe him because you seem pretty nice. And I was like, oh, thank you. The teacher came in, she looked at me, and my choir teacher was like, no, I want you back. So my choir teacher had me come all the way back into the classroom and spend another day in there before the counselor lady, which at the time she was taking care of all of the switching classes and stuff. That counselor lady was like, oh, well, you need to go into art class, not into choir. Did you tell him you're going into art class instead of choir? And I'm like, yes, I told him. There we go. Look, guys, I fixed it. It's completely fixed. It's not as laggy. Anyways, so I was talking to the counselor lady, and she fixed the problem really easily. Okay, you can go back into there. And the first person who was waiting for me was that one boy. I'm just gonna call him Crush. That one boy was waiting for me. And he's like, oh, I'm so glad you're back in the class. I missed seeing you around here. It's cool that you're back. And I was like, yeah, thank you. And immediately, in my stupid little brain, that set off a signal as, you should like this person. So I ended up talking to him a little bit more, and while I was talking to him, I found out a lot about him and how he was a really nice person, and it hurt my soul. And then the other thing was he was single, but here's the problem. Yes, he was single, but the thing about that is he never dated anybody. So my stupid brain was like, oh, maybe he'll like me. So anyways, I ended up really liking him, like after a few days, but eventually Vanessa, my friend, ended up coming into the same class as me, and it was hell. At first I thought, oh, Vanessa, I'm really excited you're gonna be in the same class as me, but no, that's not how it worked at all. It was like to the point of where, no. She found out that I liked him really quickly because when I like somebody, it really badly shows. I get really nervous, I tend to stutter when I speak about them or when I talk to them, and it's really obvious when I like somebody. And Vanessa knew that. So she looked at me and she's like, you like him, don't you? You like this person, don't you? And I was like, but I'm like talking to her and she's like, you are lying. And I tried assuring her that I'm not lying, because I was like, I knew she would tell him, but I couldn't convince her. So after like that day, the whole day, my crush started talking to me more for some reason that day, and it made my anxiety go through the roof, because I was like, what if she talked to him? Did she talk to him? Did she tell him? And turns out, like, spoiler right now, she didn't. Not yet. So about a month later, it had been about a month since I had joined that class, and there was only like a month until the quarantine kind of made summer stop. Well, it was like 2 months. So anyways, she like runs past my table and she looks at me and she distracts me by saying, hey, can you draw me a picture of something? I asked her what. She said, can you draw me a picture of a duck with long legs wearing thigh-high stockings, which don't ask why, but it makes sense. Don't ask why. But I agreed, and I said sure. So I started drawing it, I got the outline done, and then I see her walk over to my crush's desk, and out of the corner of my eye, I hear her shout at the top of her lungs in the most Vanessa-like manner, Jim Pix has a crush on you. And he looks at her and he's like, what? I run over to Vanessa and I tackle her. And I start screaming at her. I look back at my crush and I'm like, I do not. I just need to make this clear that I do not. And he just looks at me and he shrugs it off. So I was like, okay. And time from then on kind of went normal until I decided to do something. I saw him open up his locker right after art class, and I had to go and grab some books to, do school stuff. And I had forgotten some. So I go to my locker to go and grab them, and then I see that his locker is literally right next to my locker. So I was like, oh, okay. So I look closer at his locker and I'm like, I kind of want to confess to him. How could I do this? So me being the scaredy cat that I am, which you guys probably don't know this, but I have a problem with liking people and not being able to express how I feel. I was like, I'm gonna leave a note that says, from Anonymous, I like you, or I have a crush on you. So I did, but I wanted to make it like a scavenger hunt thing, since it was almost like the end of the year, so I just kind of said, hey, until Valentine's Day, until the day of Valentine's Day, because it was that week, I was like, I'm going to keep leaving you notes in your locker, and you're gonna have to figure out who I am before Valentine's Day. And he legit went with it. He got a note, and on the back of it, me being dumb since I'm an artist, I doodled a candle, doodled a picture of a candle on the back, and I said, I like candles. And the next day, I was surprised. I thought he'd just throw it away or something, but no. He kept the freaking note. He was like, hey. And he walks over to me. He sits next to me in the freaking cafeteria, and he looks at me and he's like, hey, do you like candles? And I was like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, he got my note. I was like, why? And he's like, it's nothing. I was like, no, why? And he looks at me, he's like, oh, well, I got this note in my locker the other day, and he's like, it's an anonymous note. He freaking pulls the note out of his pocket, he throws it to me, and I just have to look at this note and just kind of frown at it and try not to smile or laugh or smirk. I have to just frown at it and be like, that's some weird handwriting there, buddy-o. And he just looks at me. He smiles, he grabs the note, and he's like, well, thanks for helping. It's like, okay. So he goes and shows it to his friends, and his friends are like, that's Jim Pix's handwriting. And he's like, no, I already showed it to her. She said it wasn't her. And they're like, oh, then it's probably someone else. So I got away with it the first time, but then the second time came along. I gave another note, and I put it in his locker again. This time, I just doodled a picture of a blue crayon and a purple crayon, and I said, purple is my favorite. I know that blue's your favorite. The next day comes along, he sits down at the table, he looks at me, he's staring at me, and in my hand, I was holding a purple crayon. I was trying to give off the most hints that I could possibly give off without letting him know that it was directly me. So he ends up looking at me and he's like, hey Jim Pix, what's your favorite color? And I just coughed on my drink and I was like, it's blue. Why? He's like, because I got another note. And I was like, you got another one? He's like, yeah, she must really like me. And I was like, yeah, she must really like you. And he's like, do you have any idea who it could be? Maybe one of your friends? And I'm like, it looks kind of like Vanessa's handwriting. And he's like, oh yeah, because Vanessa is in our class. I'll ask her what her favorite color is later and we'll see. I mean, I didn't tell Vanessa because she had already told him, and I knew if I told her, she'd just go straight to him and be like, it's from her. So art class came around that day, and I'm still keeping up with this lie of me not knowing who it is. But art class comes along that day, and Vanessa sits next to me, and sure enough, my crush is sitting in front of me. He turns around, he looks at Vanessa, and he's like, hey, what's your favorite color? And she's like, oh, it's purple. And my heart dropped. He's like, oh, it is? So did you write this note? And he hands the note to Vanessa. Vanessa looks over at me. She smirks and looks back at him and says, no, I don't know. I didn't make it. But I think I might know who did make it. She exaggerated the did. And she looks at me, and I shake my head, and I'm like, I didn't do it. And she's like, oh, okay. Yeah, okay. And he's still looking for this person. He walks up to me again, and he's like, is art class your favorite class? And I was like, no, totally not. It's, I still don't know who she is. I want to know who she is so I can say if I like her back or not. Because she's going through all this effort, all these notes in my lockers. I want to at least either reject her properly or tell her that I like her. And me hearing the word reject, I was like, nope, never saying it, never telling him. But then Vanessa walked up to me as he left, and Vanessa looked at me and she's like, hey, today's Valentine's Day, dude. You gotta tell him. At least make him a card or something and just tell him that it's you. And I kind of agreed. So, art class comes around, and this time is the last class of the day since we had a short day to go home. And there he is, sitting in his original spot when the teacher moves him away because his friend comes over and starts being disruptive. So I'm like, how am I gonna do this? So I go ahead and I make a card. And in the card, I said, hey, I'm the one that's been, being a stalker. Oh my god, I was just about to talk about goldfish. Oh my god, that has brought me stuff. But as coincidental as it is, I was just about to say that I made him a card, and in the card, I put goldfish in it. So that's a big coincidence.
How? Fell off the skateboard. He's got a cast on.
Oh no. But anyways, okay, so I just got some bad news that my cousin broke his arm. So I'm gonna leave that in the video so you guys can hear. But cousin, if you watch this, thanks for being a dumbass. And but anyways, so I made a card for my crush, and I had painted on a red heart on it. I had made a smiley face, and I had used all of the hints that I had, where I drew a picture of a candle on it and said I like candles, and then I drew a picture of a purple crayon in purple, and then, but anyways, so I'm like, she's sitting there, she's giving me goldfish, and she's like hyping me up. She's like, walk over to your crush, give him your card, everything will be okay. So I'm like getting hyped up, I fill the thing with goldfish, and I walk over to him. Slowly, it's all the way on the other side of the classroom, and he looks up at me, and I've got my hands behind my back, and I look at him, and he just kind of looks at me. He's like, hey, what's up? And I was like, here you go. And I hand him this card, and he looks at it, and while he's looking at it, he just kind of looks at me, and I run away. I legit ran away, and I see him open it up, he reads the words, and then he just grabs a handful of goldfish and he eats the goldfish. But he kind of politely let me know that he didn't like me like that. He didn't outright say, I do not like you like that, he just kind of said, no. So, it was still technically a rejection, but that was my awkward crush story. By the way, if you liked this video and you liked the shaders that I used the heck out of for this video, please hit that like and subscribe button. I do take a lot of time out of my day to make these videos, and just like I did today, where I do a non-stop uploading week, I will be doing more and more of those. So I hope you guys do enjoy this video, and bye! And bye, everybody!